What's up, fam? It's your boy G-Man, and you are listening to the Superhero Brothers podcast. Guys, on today's episode, we're going to be going over She-Hulk episode 8, as well as the recent spooky featurette Werewolf by Night released by Disney this past week. So, guys, go ahead, grab your popcorn, because this is going to be a juicy and super fun episode. So, to start out, this was by far, She-Hulk episode 8 was the best episode in the series to date. Disney has definitely gone with this kind of slow build up to the last two episodes, absolutely killing it. And it cannot go without being said, one of the main reasons this episode is so good is that we finally get Daredevil in this episode. And it's not just a little sneak peek or a cameo. Charlie Cox is in the MCU as Matt Murdock and Daredevil. First, he owns Jen Walters in the courtroom as a lawyer. She brought one of her initial costume designers to court in terms of making faulty equipment. Obviously, this guy does not. It was just a client she had was a total idiot known as Frogman who put jet fuel in his boosters rather than the proper fuel. I don't know what fuel you would put in those type of contraptions, but I digress. Anyway, so basically, she got pwned in court, and she's like, who is this dude? This, like, mysterious blind guy just, like, totally made me look like an absolute novice in court. So then, of course, you know, she's trying to wallow in her semi-shame of losing. But, of course, Matt sends her a drink, and they have this, like, little moment. She-Hulk she be looking as much as possible, because she's like, oh, man, I'm attracted to Matt Murdock. Like, could this be happening? But, I mean, the dynamic does work since they both kind of they both understand the superhero world. They're both lawyers, you know, so the ship could sail further on, maybe later in the series or maybe in Daredevil's upcoming TV show or the films. We'll just have to see. But it was cool getting to see them team up to save Matt Murdock's original client and just their dynamic. If you guys watch the Netflix series, Daredevil used to be the king of hallway fight scenes. He's all about stealth and trying to like be as quiet as possible and kind of get in the minds of his opponents. And She-Hulk was like, I can just smash in here. Like, we don't need to do all that. Because obviously her powers are way different than his. He has to rely on his hand-to-hand combat. And she's like, bro, I literally could smash in here and no one can do anything to stop me. So that dynamic was funny to see. I will have to say, Matt Murdock may be the biggest manslaughter, biggest player in the entire MCU. Like, this homie has bagged She-Hulk, Karen Page, Elektra, and the nurse from season 1. And they all still like him. It's not like he has bad blood between any of them. They all want a piece of Daredevil. City boy! City boy! And I thought it was funny. He even did the walk of shame out of her apartment, which I thought was hilarious. But so, of course, you got this kind of feeling like, it's a big kind of goody two shoes feel in the sense of like, we got this great cameo. She-Hulk still hasn't had a great challenge. But, dude, when I tell you, Marvel shocked me with Jen Walters in this episode. So basically, she got Lawyer of the Year award. So she has this big show or whatever. It's like her culmination moment, like, oh, man, I finally made it as a lawyer. My peers are recognizing me, da-da-da-da-da. And then she gets this thing. As she's presented to the award, the kind of overarching big bad group, which is Intelligenca, basically hijacks the screen and is like, Jen Walters is a fake. She's a Hulk knockoff. She stole all of her powers. She doesn't deserve them. And they're like, and she's a slut. And so the guy from episode 3 or episode 4, who she ended up hanging out with, who supposedly liked Jen for Jen, did not like Jen at all. He took all of her info and literally uploaded the video of them having sex. And I was like, yo, I would not expect Disney to do that. And you could see not only is Jen just embarrassed, but she's pissed off. She actually loses it and goes into Hulk rage mode. You can see that Intelligenca had set this up. They had cameras set up so that she'd be seen as a bad guy, as a villain. So she's trying to chase these people in the mask. She gets one, but of course, as she gets one, she's got all these guns pointed at her. She's officially broken the law and started to fit in that stereotype of a Hulk as a monster. So, guys, when I tell you episode 8, I was not ready. Like, literally, you guys should have seen, I had my hand on my heart. I was like, I had to put my hand over my mouth. I had to rewind it. I don't ever rewind shows. And I had to rewatch that because I was like, did Disney really just do that? Like, they literally have been talking about more kind of, I'd say, adult level themes. Usually it used to be like mirrored or kind of underlying themes, but they weren't as direct with it. So it was just crazy to see Jin Hulk out. And like, when I say Hulk out, it wasn't like, oh, I'm turning the She-Hulk, I'm in control. Like, no, she was ready to like destroy the entire building. And I thought that was actually pretty crazy and pretty cool. So definitely intrigued by episode 9 and how they're going to wrap that all up. How does the Abomination fill in with this? Can Bruce possibly come back? Is the Red Hulk going to be teased in this? Is Jin's best friend really like the villain feeding Intelligenka this information? Like, who's the big bad behind all of this? Like, why are they targeting Jin so much? Why do they feel like Jin's like not up to par? Like, what's the hate behind it, essentially? We know from her episode 6 in that Yurt episode, the guy from the Wrecking Crew, he knows what's up. I feel like we're going to see his character come back in episode 9. I don't know in what way, but I definitely feel that we will. So, guys, let me know in the comments what you think episode 9 is going to be and how much you liked episode 8. With that, we're going to go ahead and transition into the Werewolf by Night featurette. And guys, when I tell you, this was probably one of Marvel's best decisions not to make Werewolf by Night a show, but rather a featurette, kind of like, and what a featurette is essentially is like an hour short film, if you will. But it was a perfect mix of action, drama. It had a couple like quick-witted things, but it wasn't like overly slapstick. Oh, let's hit you with a joke every other line. Like, it was very much understated and like followed the tone of a horror film. And that I really appreciated. I also loved how they used kind of like this black and white color scheme. So it takes you back to that 1930s feels, that old school Frankenstein, Headless Horseman, Dracula films. So basically, the big premise of this is a character, Ulysses Bloodstone, who's a renowned, famed monster hunter, has passed away. And hunters are participating in a ceremonial hunt to take his bloodstone. And basically, what this stone is an artifact. It gives the user extended life, super strength, durability, you know, the good old when it comes to superpowers. And so you have his this whole hunt is led by his ex-wife, his widowed wife. And you have a bunch of hunters coming across. You have his disgraced daughter, Elsa Bloodstone. You have a guy named, I want to say it was Jack. It was Jack, and you had a couple other hunters, which I will say was cool in the sense that the hunters weren't really MCU canon, but Marvel didn't try to flesh them out to a point where you're super invested in them. You just knew that they were hunters trying to get this monster and try to obtain this stone and get its power. So essentially, it tells you the rules. She tells all the hunters the rules and what monster they have to kill, because the stone will be attached to that monster. So you get them kind of stalking and sneaking around this kind of Minotaur's lair, if you will, to find the monster. And from the get-go, it's like, honestly, it's the Disney's version of the Hunger Games. It's like from the get-go, these hunters are just like everyone for themselves. Like not even 20 minutes in, Elsa's having to fight off one of the hunters. She like chops his hand off and he like cuts her leg, and it's like, oh snap, like y'all are really about this. Y'all are throwing them hands, y'all about the life. You're like, I want this prize no matter what. Like the whatchamacallit, Hunger Games theme songs, like do do do, like it was there. That's definitely not the Hunger Games theme song, but we'll continue. But what we end up finding out during this hunt is that we get introduced to Man-Thing. And when I tell you this is one of the goated MCU monsters, like this man one-shots a lot of MCU heroes. Like we'll definitely have to do a verse series one day to be like, yeah, who does Swamp Thing one-shot versus like who does he lose to? But he killed Two Hunters real quick because he's like swampy, but like if he wrapped his tentacles around someone, they'd immediately start burning. And I was like, yo, like that's freaking wild. Like, how do you even do that? But bro, when I tell you the violence was off the chain, it was wild. You got people's necks getting slit. You got arms breaking off. It was pretty wild. Like, now I will say, costume design wise, it really reminded me a mix of Teen Wolf and Michael Jackson's Thriller, if I'm being real. But overall, I still think the show was really good. It gave you just enough that you wanted more of the three main characters, that being Ted, Jack, and Elsa. But it wasn't to a point where you felt like the story couldn't hold on its own. So some of the things I really loved, of course, the horror vibes of it. They used a great job with the soundtrack, just using these eerie horn blasts when they first started or whenever something kind of spooky was about to happen. I think something really cool actually was really understated that I don't think a lot of people like really caught on to. The whole night aspect is once it finished, kind of Over the Rainbow started playing. So kind of after all that big trial, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and the film switches from black and white to color. And so I thought that was just a really cool move by the directors in terms of kind of like ending on a positive note, but also saying like, hey, we survived the night. There is another day. There is another adventure to be had. And last, but not at all least, like I said, I love that they kept us a featurette. Something that has been really bugging me, and you guys have heard me say in the past couple episodes, is that I really don't like when Marvel is putting out all these shows and they're just slow. They're not super quality content. They're going more of breadth rather than depth. And I'd rather have really deep shows and a lot of time in between them rather than them just like shoving out content down your show. Be like, superhero. Not good plot. Slapstick comedy. Like, I don't need that. We want real stories. No offense, if I wanted just slapstick comedy, I'd just watch Dumb and Dumber for the rest of my life. Not that saying that's a bad film by any means, but it's not what I'm looking for in kind of that superhero genre. I don't need it to be the atypical Superman, Captain America film. There can definitely be some nuance, but like switch it up and make it actually worthwhile watching. Like I said, this past kind of phase 4 has been up and down in terms of TV series. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transition into the Daily Bugle news and rumors. So first and foremost, Marvel is actually looking at a lot of its upcoming shows and thinking about turning them into that featurette style, similar to the Werewolf by Night, which, like I said, I'd be absolutely ecstatic for. I think it would make for much better content, as well as it would really like just hook people in and really make sure guys are focused on these minor characters that don't really need shows. Like, they're not your main heavy hitters, but it's nice to get a highlight on them and get to know about them and have essentially you have a good story. And yes, you have representation, but it gives you the flexibility like, hey, I can pull them in for a cameo here. Hey, we can upgrade them to a film, or hey, we'll keep them at that TV show type of level. I'm really stoked by that. Guys, we had a lot of Marvel titles getting pushed back. One, first and foremost, Blade has still not found a director, and they've actually halted production, which I was absolutely miffed by. So you know that date's going to be pushed back. So a lot of the dates are, I'm going to go ahead and read them off. We had Blade getting pushed back to September 6th of 2024. Deadpool 3 getting pushed back to November 8th of 2024. Fantastic Four being pushed back to February 14th, 2025. And then Avengers Secret Wars getting pushed back all the way to May 1st, 2026. Now, a lot of people were like, oh, we're so bummed. Like, we're not going to get all this content back to back to back. I'm not going to lie. I'm really excited about that. One, that's going to help my wallet. I will not have to spend as much on the movies. But two, I really think this gives us more time and the directors more times to develop those characters, really go back over those scripts and ensure like I said, they have a great storyline and keep kind of that quality that they had in the first 3 phases of the MCU. Now, we did get an update on the Sony movie Madam Web. They got some more images released. We had some of Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, and the other 2 girls, Celeste O'Connor, and I forgot the other girl's name. They look kind of lame, I'm not going to lie. But again, it's set in the early 2000s, so the fashion sense was like, when it was all there. But we did get a view of who the new villain will be, which is a Spider-Man variant known as Ezekiel Sims. So super pumped about this. So essentially, how he got his powers was like some crazy place in like South America where he had like a god spider and he had to like kill some type of other Spider-Man and like replace him as the sacrifice, or have Spider-Man replace him as a sacrifice so he could keep on living. So it's a very interesting villain. I don't know how Sony's going to work that out, because technically Ezekiel didn't come until Peter Parker was alive, but Madam Web is set basically before Peter Parker's born, from my understanding. So we'll be very intrigued how they kind of like tie that whole thing in, but still pumped that we got kind of the update of him as a villain. But kind of transitioning into our Marvel TV shows, Daredevil Born Again Season 4 will start filming in 2023. So basically, in Daredevil Born Again, the aftermath events of that kind of series will directly tie in to Spider-Man 4. So super pumped to see not only the TV show being brought into the film, but also kind of seeing how Marvel handles that going out to the big screen, onto the small screen, and back and forth kind of from the streaming world to the big line cinema. And hopefully Charlie Cox will get more chances than not to appear on the big screen as Daredevil. As well, guys, we got confirmation that Chris Evans is returning for Avengers Secret Wars. So he could be the Human Torch, he could be Captain America, or he could be both. We just don't know. Guys, let me know in the comments what character you think he will be coming back as, or maybe he comes back as Captain Hydra. Like, how dope would that be? I actually feel like that'd be sick. I just came up with that on the spot. So if that happens, Marvel, write me a check. Like, I officially just need to go ahead and start looking at the comments and making your own storylines. But with that being said, I cannot go on this podcast without saying how dope the latest Wakanda Forever trailer was. Like, bro, when I tell you my mind was absolutely blown, from Namor bopping and weaving on air to the new Black Panther suit being released to Ironheart's suit. Like, bro, I was just absolutely ecstatic. I know when we have the trailer reaction up on our YouTube channel as well as our Instagram and TikTok. So be sure to check that out if you want to see me bobbing and weaving and getting surprised and kind of my overall thoughts on that trailer. But with that, we're going to go ahead and switch into the DC universe. So we know Black Adam is coming out this week. The world premiere is actually coming on now, and the official release coming the 21st, which I already have my tickets for. You guys know I'll keep you in the loop on that film without any spoilers, or as well as I can without any spoilers. But basically, supposedly, Superman is confirmed to appear in this film, which I'm happy, A, Henry Cavill's back, but B, that this sets up like the Superman versus Black Adam in the second film, or maybe a Superman versus Black Adam versus Shazam. So it gets that kind of dynamic of between Superman and Shazam, and then Shazam and Black Adam. I just don't, as long as they don't turn it into like a buddy or try to like revamp the Snyderverse. As much as I love Snyder, don't get me wrong, I thought Justice League was a good film, but I just think it's almost not too far gone, but the Flash movies to just kind of reset the timeline and keep certain characters only. But the only way I would like if they kept kind of the Snyderverse is if Superman went evil through the Nightmare timeline and absolutely decimated Black Adam. Then I would think low-key that would be a super dope kind of character arc for Superman. Before, of course, like Flash reverse time and Batman ends up saving the day. But with that being said, still super excited for the Black Adam film to come out, as well as to see kind of how they start building out the DC universe from this film. I feel like this is now going to be almost a launch point with the JSA, maybe tying into like the Justice League, into the Justice League Unlimited, for those of you who watch the cartoon and have a really expansive league. Just got to see how they want to do it. So Joyvan Wade, Brendan Fraser, and a lot of the Doom Patrol cast had appeared at New York Comic Con to talk about season 4 of Doom Patrol, which appears December 8th. So guys, mark that on your calendars. I will admit it's a semi-weird show, but it keeps you hooked. So definitely say keep on the watch out for it. I think Jordan Wade is a great actor, and as well as Brendan Fraser and a lot of that cast. And I just think it will really kind of help DC's TV verse, if you will. Supposedly this season could do a lot with time travel, more so than season 3. So very excited to see kind of how that pulls in. So sticking with the DC TV verse, Titans season 4 is dropping Thursday, November 3rd. I'm super pumped for this. We're going to get villains like Brother Blood. We're going to get cameos from Lex Luthor, even Superman himself. So very excited to see, one, who they cast as Lex Luthor, but as well, are they going to have Tyler Hoechlin in this universe as Superman? Or are they going to just do more so like cameo of like, maybe it's like Clark Kent's glasses, or like they talk about the Man from Metropolis. So very excited and intrigued to see how that's going to go. We did get some updates on the Penguin series that's going to be spun off from the Batman movie that came out earlier in January of this year. It takes place supposedly only a week after the Batman movie finished. So Gotham's still flooded. So it's really how the Penguin rises to power. And I think that's really dope how it's still going to keep that kind of gritty tone. And I think Colin Farrell's going to do a phenomenal job with the Penguin. So I'm super stoked for that show. We still haven't got necessarily a timeline of when it's coming out to HBO Max, but right when it does, you guys will be the first to know. As well, kind of going into the cartoon DC verse, the Harley Quinn series is having a Valentine's Day special next year. For those of you who really enjoy the show, mark it on your calendars. For those of you who don't, it's hit or miss for me. Like, I watched the first season all the way through because I was like, okay, like it's going to get better. And it had some real high points, but it had some real low points to me as well. And then each further season, I just kind of like got disinterested. There's certain parts you can get through, but in my opinion, it's like you have to be like, all right, I'm going to watch this show. Some of this is going to be really, really stupid, and some of this is going to be really good. But also, I will admit, probably part of my bias is I've never been a huge Harley Quinn fan as a character. She just didn't really vibe with me all that much. But for some people, she might be super dope. So if that's what floats your boat, definitely check that out. It's going to be coming out early February 2023. We did get another release as well. There's another animated film, Batman and Superman Super Sons. We got some footage released on that. That I'm kind of meh about, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I think they're trying to use the trope of Batman, Superman a little too much and pass it on to their kids and maybe try to capture a younger audience. But I'm like, one, Damien's too much of a jerk to really resonate with kids, and John's just too airheaded, in my opinion, or absent-minded. So I'll probably watch the film, but I don't have a lot of high hopes going in for it. So we're actually going to do something new that we've never done before and actually do an independent section. So first and foremost, for those of you who watch The Boys on Amazon, super, super dope show. Season 4 is coming out, and they are introducing 2 new superheroes, which is Firecracker and Sister Sage. I don't know too much on their superpowers. I need to read up a little bit more and kind of really get caught up in terms of all of the superhero knowledge for The Boys as a show. And just as a comic book, I think it's a really dope show. If you haven't watched it, definitely start. You are missing out because it's just a great satire on superheroes as a genre. And I think it's a really interesting thing to compare to whether it's the DC universe or the MCU. Also as well, the director for Captain America 4 has been confirmed to actually be directing the Jamie Foxx-led Spawn reboot. So fun fact, Spawn is not a part of DC or Marvel Comics. He's appeared in crossovers with DC, but he's not actually a DC character. I actually just found that out this week. So fun facts every day. And then last but not least, Invincible is another superhero show that had came out on Amazon. This show, I'm telling you, it is very violent. So it's not something, if you have kids, I would necessarily show them at first, but it is so good. But they're making a video game for it, and I'm super pumped. So as you know, whether beta testing or trailer clips come out, I will keep you guys in the know, give you guys my reactions and thoughts, and just make sure that if this game is going to be dope, you know that you're going to be the first in line to buy it. Because I know when the pre-orders come out, your boy's getting it. I do not care. I will money is set aside to get these games. But with that, fam, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Not only does this ensure that we are curating content that you guys enjoy, but it helps keep us consistent. As well, if you are watching this on the YouTube channel, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you always know when we are releasing videos, whether it's trailer reactions, workouts, or these podcast episodes. And if you aren't already, go ahead and follow us on social media, fam. We are on Instagram and TikTok. That's at Superhero Brothers. So superhero, then BROTHAS. So we're going to have giveaways coming up, as well as Halloween costume ideas. And we have some really great content coming up at the end of this year, as well as the start of next year, that I'm super pumped to show you guys and help get you guys to get your own superhero bod. So with that, guys, it's your boy G-Man, and you have been listening to the Superhero Brother.